Hey everybody, welcome back. Psychedelic here. Got you a vinyl finds already. Can you believe it? Yeah, the first one here we're going to talk about a little bit. A couple eBay finds, which is kind of rare for me nowadays, especially this year. I've rarely bought off there. But we're going to start off with one that I forgot to talk about maybe a few videos back. We'll start off with the 45. I must have just slipped it in the 45 case and forgot about it, spaced it off or something. And then talk about a new Guerssen release, as well as kind of promote them a little bit. One that's actually been on my target list for this year as far as OG is concerned. A mono copy of a record I already have, and then a $2 bin record I've been after for a while, and I think $2 is kind of a steal these days. You can find it typically about 20 bucks in clean shape, and I was just happy to see it this week, or last week I should say. So let's dive in. I'm going to use this for the opener of the video if you guys haven't heard this track. This is one that's one of those blazing hard rock psych tracks from 1969. It originally came out, and funny enough, I got a release here in the US on the Dunhill label. It was originally on the Vertigo, and we're talking about The Kettle by Coliseum. Came out as a US promo here. It's got the original sleeve here. If it's on Dunhill, believe it. And funny enough, it wasn't actually featured on their Dunhill LP, The Grass is Greener, which came out like the following year, 1970. It was on their album Valentine Suite, which was out on Vertigo, and definitely the highlight for me. I've never really been too big on the band themselves, Coliseum. They're a little more in the kind of typical sounding progressive jazz rock kind of thing that was happening around the curve of the decade, but just never really got into them too heavily, except for this track's always been the big standout, I think, for a lot of people. Just got this kind of really ripping hard rock hook that just introduces itself in the beginning of the track, and then got these pummeling drums, these kind of crashing cymbals, these bashing cymbals happening, and just really wild track. It's kind of sloppy in a way, but in a fun kind of sloppy. Just some wailing guitar licks going on. I actually did a cover of this song. I did the bass, the drums, guitar, back in like 2016 or something. I even did the vocals on this, and I'm going to share that someday if I can get it off my hard drive. It's on my old laptop's hard drive, and I've been meaning to pull some tracks from there ever since I got my other laptop. Anyways, the B-side, what is it, Plenty Hard Luck? Not too crazy about that track, but it's kind of more typical of their sound. But yeah, if you haven't heard The Kettle by Coliseum, it's a banger, man. And it's also notable for mentioning it was actually sampled by Fatboy Slim, one of his tracks, I forget which one, and then I also heard it out of the blue somewhere. I heard it on a Chevy Silverado commercial or something. It was a GMC commercial or something like that, and it was using that Fatboy Slim track, but I just recognize that riff anywhere I hear it, and it's that riff on like a loop, and it's a little sped up. But I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. The kettle's still out there. Why the kettle dry? This was one of those eBay finds. Got it for like 30 bucks in total. I think it kind of goes for more 50 to 75 around there. It pops up every once in a while, but it's usually pretty beat up. And again, one of those European European bands that try to make it in the US by promoting some fantastic singles. So killer track. You'll love the intro to this. And then the next one, this is a brand new release from Guerssen. Really glad to pick this one up finally. It's one of those rare instances I pre-ordered something, and this is Dandelion's Chariot with Chariot Rising. Brand new release here. Got this one early before the release date. Got the black wax copy here. And this is one that I've been trying to track the 2012, 2011 repress on Wawa Records. It's got a lot better cover art in my opinion. Kind of shows them with the light show, cross-fading into their faces. It's just a really killer looking sleeve. This one, it's cool, but it kind of gives me a little more like a Paisley Underground kind of feel to it. But of course, it's got the light show on the back. And this is what the band was really all about. I think they only lasted for about a year. A very short-lived band. but they were very much in the same camp as, you know, the Pink Floyd and the Soft Machine, you know, playing at the UFO Club and several other clubs around this time. And they had only one legitimate single that came out, Madman Running Through the Fields, backed with Sun Came Bursting Through My Cloud. Couple killer tracks on here. The single is actually fairly affordable in the grand scheme of things, you know, comparative to like Tintern Abbey's single. I mean, you can still acquire this for about maybe €200 or something like that. But yeah, I think it was like, what, released on the Parlophone label, is that right? I'm pretty sure. But I also like the idea that they, you know, Guerssen, I think they went back and redid the track listing with all these different sessions that they recorded over time. Because there was a LP sort of beginning to set for release, but I guess they ultimately just got shelved, or, you know, something must have happened within the transition of making it. But I really like the way they sort of curated the track listing, because there's a lot of like subdued kind of softer cuts on here, which are fine. They're manageable, but I really like when they rock out, you know, tracks like World War III. It's just a killer cut. You got a lot of like distorted organ work going on. Very upbeat, very Carnaby Street action going on. Piccadilly Circus vibes. I mean, the whole scene is very much set in that psychedelic full focus. Just a snapshot of the time period when you listen to it. Four-penny bus ride. And you got a few like Middle Eastern cuts on here too. Soma parts 1 and 2. I think it's the track High Flying Bird. It's not that traditional track that we all know, but it's like their own rendition of sort of like what the West Coast was putting out at the time. Just a really killer set here. It's an archival release, so it was originally released on 10th Planet back in the mid-90s. But yeah, this is one of those cases, like if this were an LP back in its prime years, I mean, this would set you back some, I would imagine, sort of be in the same caliber as, say, you know, those records on the Saga label. This is the Magic Mixture and 5 Day Week Straw People. Yeah, we recently lost Zoot Money, who was the, I think, lead guitarist. Is that right? I know he did the lead vocals. He passed away in September, sort of like when they were prepping this whole release to get this repressed. And yeah, Zoot Money, Andy Summers would later go on to late period Eric Burdon and the Animals on their Love Is record, and they also brought back Madmen. I'll just give it a little read here. Complete 1967 recordings, including the cult psychedelic classic 45, Madman Running Through the Fields. Zoot Money's psychedelic incarnation featuring a young Andy Summers on guitar and sitar, later known as Andy Summers in The Police. Performing frequently at Middle Earth and UFO, displaying a wild light show, and the band cut just 145, laid down more tracks for an unreleased album. And here it is in its full sonic glory, top-notch UK psychedelia with West Coast influences. It's got remastered sounds, comes with the liner notes. It just does not get any better when concerning the scene. But like I said, I wish they kind of fleshed a little more of the tracks out with sort of the, you know, just being a little more electric boosted, I guess. Because some of the cuts are a little too soft for my taste. Like, I think it's This Island, but the way they, like I said, made the consistent flow on the album, made it work. I think it does kind of pan out pretty well compared to the versions I heard online. So, Dandelion's Chariot, brand new release from Guerssen. They've just been knocking it out of the park the last couple years, and get a shot of the label here, I guess, as well. Classic Guerssen. I think they recently switched the title out. I think I started noticing that when I bought Andromeda. They started kind of giving a little different variation on their label. But whenever I get a chance to show this record, I'll show it, man. So they also re-released this one, Creation of Sunlight. This is an original here on Windy. One of my very most prized possessions in the collection. A little bit of a rough cover, you know, like a lot of them are. It's got some age wear going on, some staining. But I got a hell of a deal on this compared to what they do go for. If you look at the Discogs prices, man, it's out of this world. But And it does got some marks and stuff, but it's a strong player, man. It's got some good fidelity on this thing. If you don't know Creation of Sunlight, you know, they always remind me of like Strawberry Alarm Clock in a way. It's basically pop psych with fuzz guitar. Very heavily West Coast flavored, sunshiny, kind of tropical sounding psych. Great organ leads, harmonics, the fuzz guitar work. It's got the works, man. And this is just one of those albums I just, you know, when I had the funds at the time, I was like, we're pulling the trigger on this one. So yeah, I don't have a whole lot of heavy hitters these last couple of years, it seems. Just lack of sales on Discogs and stuff. When I was making sales during the pandemic, I've been meaning to mention this, you know, a few videos back. It just seems like sales kind of plummeted and it just could never reach the same level, but really glad I got these obscurities when I could, and I'm still making some sales here and there, but it's just not like it was, you know. That's basically what I'm trying to say. But what I'm trying to say is, pulling this one out, Guerssen did re-release this Creation of Sunlight. It's back in print. I think it's been out of print since like 2002 on the Void label. And I think there was like a CD release 10 years later, but as far as like the vinyl format, we've just been really lacking a very crisp, clean, probably remastered audio sound through Guerssen. So really happy to see this get brought back to life, and highly recommend you guys picking this up. Creation of Sunlight. All right, carrying on. This is one that I actually received in the mail yesterday. It's one of those eBay finds. Again, I don't know how people miss this one, because this is one of those records, you know, a lot of people, I mean, it's probably not being heavily seeked out, but I don't know how long it was listed. But I just did my casual search, seeing what was out there, and this is actually one of those records that was on my target list for this year, ones that I've been wanting to track down. I have a few, you know, kind of just in my mind trying to think of capturing this year. And this is one such case, man. I got this for a great deal, probably for the price that the reissue goes for. And it looks so clean, maybe people mistaken it for the repress, but this is the real deal here on Actuel 45. We got Banana Moon by David Allen. This is one I've been trying to track down for a while now. I got turned on this one, you know, I knew about it for a long time, but early Gong stuff I really much liked the most up until, you know, the U album, their whole Flying Teapot saga. But I really like the early stuff the most, I think, you know, when they're kind of doing some spatial stuff, kind of exploring their sound a little more, very much in that early Canterbury sound. And this is a little different. I mean, it's basically Gong, but it's with friends, right? That's with his acquaintances, his colleagues at the same scene. You got Pip Pyle, who makes his debut here with the band as far as, you know, kind of collaborating. And then Maggie Bell. I forget if she and I think Barry St. John were in the same group. I forget which group it was, but they contribute here. And then Robert Wyatt does most of the drumming on here. Gary Wright, Spooky Tooth. So yeah, you got a whole nice line of cast members here. And then open up the gatefold. Lots to read there. Looks like they kind of dive into each track, kind of deciphering and tell you what you're going to get into. And then there's David with the, you know, smoking banana. And man, this is, I mean, speaking of that, this is a very big session going on here. I think it was recorded maybe over a few months, but a lot of mixing happening here. And some of these sessions get so baked, you can kind of tell where it's kind of leading towards, especially like near the end of the first half on side one, which in my opinion, it's not all that great, but just the overall affair kind of works for me. But there are some big highlights for me, tracks that I could listen to like anytime and always have fun with. The opening track, it's The Time of Your Life. It's got this really driving kind of punk attitude about it, and just really elevates a lot of cool, you know, sort of British slang happening throughout the album lyrically, and a lot of comic relief in the lyrics, which is always kind of fun, but it gets a little old over time. You know, like I say, it's not one record I'm gonna listen to all the time. So yeah, it's The Time of Your Life, and then the whole side two is really, you you know, sort of where it peaks out. Stoned Innocent Frankenstein. What a killer cut that is. You know, it's got a lot of like weird changes throughout, and like early, maybe, I don't want to say glam, but it's sort of like where glam's kind of heading with like the whole Alice Cooper tropes and such. But it's got this kind of glammy, punky kind of sound to it. A lot of weird changes happening. Some great guitar work happening from David on here, or else he likes to go by Dingo Virgin and several other names it says on here. Bert Camembert and Alien Banana. So just, you know, just they're very much in their own space on this one. Planet Gong, and just having all these weird kind of comic book like characters and just ideas happening, popping up, and it's a lot to endure when you you know, kind of find out what they're all about. And then you have like the lengthy track, pretty much closing side 2, and his adventures in the land of Flip. It's got a whole write-up here about it. So yeah, very cool. It's definitely one that I wouldn't say beginner level, you know, if you're trying to get into Gong, but there are definitely some highlights here that I think listeners of the Canterbury scene and just Gong fans in general need to listen to. Stoned Innocent Frankenstein and It's the Time of Your Life. 2 big cuts on here. Otherwise, they get kind of a little too stone, like I said, near the end of side 1, and it also has like one of those infinity loops in the dead wax near the end with the code-in coda. So just, yeah, this is really one. It's a special record for sure. Sounds like a one-night Stone session going on. I was a little skeptical picking this up too, considering the price. It was like almost too good. But then I checked the feedbacks. I checked the feedback on the seller, and it all panned out pretty well. He listed it as VG, and there were no images of the record, so I was kind of taking a big leap of chance on this one. So yeah, check it out if you like. Banana Moon. Rest in peace, David Allen. Then moving on, this is the last 2 here. I'm going to show her from the shop recently, and before 2024 is out, he's actually holding a couple for me that may make the top 10 of this year as far as just vinyl finds. So just always surprises me what lands here in Lincoln. It's kind of nuts. But yeah, I've already actually had this record on stereo. I don't think I've ever owned a mono copy of the Electric Prunes Underground. Now, considering top 10, top 20 psych albums of all time, this one makes it, man. Underground for me is just one of those special records that, you know, nothing else quite sounds like this. And I got a really nice mono here. The cover, you know, shows a little bit of general wear. You know, like it's been shuffled around a bit, but this vinyl copy, there's no spindle marks. I mean, there might be on side 2, I think. Not really. Overall, it's like super clean. Look how clean that is. Hopefully it's showing up on camera there. No spindle marks. No marks I can detect. Maybe a smudge. Very faint smudge here, but yeah, this is a very clean ass copy. And considering the mono and stereo debate, I'd say maybe on the poppier cuts they work best for me. Tracks like Big City, Children of Rain, Wind Up Toys, Antique Doll. A lot of those cuts seem to work in mono. You hear a lot more of that sustaining delay effect happening in the vocals and just the sort of hypnotic guitar strums happening. But tracks like Dr. Do-Good and Hideaway, Long Day's Flight, I feel like kind of work better in stereo, just with all the broad, you know, panning effects happening within the channels. The Great Banana Hoax, I mean, this is just chock full of some killer cuts, man. This is just definitely their peak LP for me. I mean, their debut was awesome. This just amps up the psych appeal a step further, in my opinion. Maybe a couple weak tracks, It's Not Fair and Captain Glory, the 2 second to last tracks on both sides, get a little, you know, kind of like filler tracks for me, but otherwise, sublime stuff here. Then finally, leading up to this last one, this is a $2 bin pick. I just kind of, once again, sometimes he kind of just peppers that $2 bin with some nice surprises, and this is one I've been actually kind of seeking out. Gary Burton, Good Vibes. Kind of ending here on a jazz note. Gary Burton, vibraphonist. He's got a lot of cast of characters on here. Jerry Hahn, who I actually just found out he's actually from Elma, Nebraska, of all places. That's kind of crazy, just considering most jazz musicians I always think of are from like the East Coast, like New York City. Alma, Nebraska, like kind of nearing the Kansas border. It's like southwest Nebraska, which is just an odd little piece of trivia for me. And then you got, who else? Steve Swallow, who we actually just talked about, does the upright bass. And Eric Gale. I'm just trying to see if I recognize any other names, but yeah, I think side one works best for me. Vibrafinger. It's got a very up-tempo, kind of swift rhythm section going on. Got these kind of like soft machine-esque distorted keyboard things happening. And then, of course, obviously, probably the best known track on here, his variation on Gil Evans' Las Vegas Tango, which was famously sampled by Cypress Hill. And it's a killer opener, man. 6.5 minute track. It's got some kind of low-key, kind of psychedelic vibes happening too with the electric guitar backing. It could even remind someone of, say, David Axelrod, sort of like Electric Prunes, David Axelrod kind of stuff. And then Boston Marathon. Side two gets a little on the bluesy edge, gets a little slowed down, kind of mid-tempo kind of things. Not as good, but I'd say from my impression online from Gary Burton fans, it seems like people kind of sleep on these titles on Atlantic and the Gary Burton Quartet on RCA compared to like what everybody knows him for like the ECM records. And it's a used copy, but it played really well. For $2, can't go wrong there. Like I said, I think people are kind of catching up on to these titles and seeming to kind of climb up towards 15, 20 on average. But yeah, Gary Burton. I do plan on checking on more of his other work happening here around this time period. So that is all I got for you. So kind of a lengthier video, but I just kind of ecstatic for all these finds recently. And like I say, at the end of 2024, we got some killer stuff happening. I always love sharing the top 10 finds and maybe honorable mentions of the year. And I always surprise myself what I find going back to what I found in like January and February, kind of adding them all up into one video. And like I said, sales have been kind of lacking the last couple, 2-3 years maybe. Once the pandemic was kind of slowing down, it seems like I haven't really been knocking them out of the park like I had been, say like Creation of Sunlight level. I got that and Plastic Cloud, I think the same year, which is kind of crazy. But of course, I'm doing what I can out here. I'm kind of liking the $2 bin right now, and got some nice surprises dropping into the shop, and I don't even have to really seek out too much online, which is nice. Kind of going on autopilot, you could say, just kind of, not buying too sporadically. And of course, I just paid off my surgery too, so that's another big thing. And I've also been thinking about buying brand new tires on my vehicle, so just a lot of things happening financially. Not so much fun things though. But yeah, that's what's happening in Derek's world. Take it as it is, and check these records out. So I always recommend things that I'm picking up. So take care, and we shall see you down the road.